The night the storm swallowed the sky over Meridian Plains, something happened that folks in that quiet stretch of the Midwest would talk about for years. It was the night an old mechanic named Harold Denton opened his shop door to a stranger, a thin, road-worn young drifter named Caleb Hinton, never imagining how much that decision would change both of their lives. And neither of them knew that a week later, someone else would show up, someone who would shatter the calm they'd barely begun to build. But it all began with the storm. Harold had just finished locking up Denton Auto Services, a small metal-sided shop with a flickering porch light and a gravel lot that stretched into a dark field. At 65, his joints popped louder than the wrenches he worked with. His faded brown coveralls smelled like oil no matter how many times he washed them. He lived slow, steady, and alone, by habit, by grief, by time. Thunder cracked across the sky. Rain hammered the tin roof. He'd just turned the key in the lock when someone pounded on the door, hard, fast, desperate. Harold froze. Nobody came out here after dark. Not unless something was terribly wrong. He pulled the door open just enough to see outside, and rain exploded inward. Standing on the soaked concrete was a young man, barely 21, trembling under the downpour with a backpack slung over one shoulder like a lifeline. His curly hair was plastered to his forehead, his clothes so drenched they clung to him like another layer of skin. "Sir. I'm sorry," the young man gasped. "My ride, the guy I was traveling with, he ditched me. I've been walking for hours. I just need somewhere dry for a minute. Please." Harold scanned him slowly, the way he always did with engines, checking for cracks, danger, truth. The kid didn't look threatening. He looked exhausted. Scared. Hungry. And Harold knew that look too well. He'd seen it in the mirror once, a lifetime ago. "Get in here before you drown," Harold muttered. Caleb stumbled inside, shivering so violently his voice shook. Harold grabbed an old shop towel, tossing it to him. "Sit down before you fall down," he said. "Thank you," Caleb whispered. I'm Caleb." "Harold," he replied. "Don't touch nothin' sharp." A tiny laugh escaped Caleb, weak, but real. Harold poured hot instant coffee into a chipped mug and slid it across the wooden workbench. Caleb cupped it in both hands, his knuckles were scraped and reddened from the cold. "You look like you've been dragged across 3 states, Harold said. "Feels like it," Caleb murmured. "I've been trying to get to Nevada for a seasonal job. But the guy driving me, took off with most of my money." Harold let out a low sigh. "People surprise you." "Not always in the good way." Caleb nodded, eyelids drooping. "I'm starting to figure that out." Thunder rolled again. For nearly an hour, they sat in the dim light of the shop, surrounded by tools, grease cans, and the sweet smell of motor oil. Caleb drank every drop of the coffee like it was warming his bones from the inside. Eventually, Harold asked the question he already knew the answer to. "You got somewhere to stay tonight?" Caleb hesitated, then shook his head. "No, sir. I'll sleep outside if I have to. I've done worse." Harold rubbed the back of his neck, annoyed at himself for caring so quickly, but unable to ignore the cold truth. Nobody deserved a night like this outside. "Well," he said reluctantly, "there's an old cot in the back room. Ain't fancy. But it's warm. You can sleep here tonight. Tomorrow, you figure out your next move." Caleb blinked, stunned. Gratitude swelled across his face in a way Harold hadn't seen on anyone in years. "Thank you," he breathed. "Really? You don't know what this means." Harold shrugged, trying not to show the impact of those words. "Ain't nothing. Just a roof." But it wasn't just a roof. Not for Caleb. Not for Harold either. When morning came, sunlight streamed through the dusty windows. Caleb was already awake, quietly organizing a stack of scattered socket wrenches. Harold frowned. "You don't gotta do chores," he grumbled. I want to, Caleb said simply. You helped me. I want to return it. Harold noticed how careful the kid was. Respectful. Observant. And behind his tired eyes, there was something else, something wounded but gentle. At noon, Harold split his sandwich and slid half across the table. You eat quick, you get hungry again sooner, Harold said. Caleb smiled faintly. My mom used to say that. Before things got complicated. Harold didn't push. Hurt stories never needed prying hands. Later that evening, Harold cleared his throat. You, need a couple days? I could use help around the shop. Only if you want. Caleb's face softened with relief. I'd really appreciate that. More than you know. And just like that, a rhythm formed, quiet, unexpected, healing. They worked side by side. They shared meals. They talked in small pieces, like people learning trust again. But peace is fragile. And exactly 7 days after Caleb arrived, as the sunset dyed the sky orange, a black sedan rolled into the gravel lot. A stranger stepped out. Someone who knew Caleb's full name. And that someone was about to tear open everything they thought was safe. The black sedan rolled to a slow stop, gravel crunching under its tires like bones snapping. Harold didn't recognize the make. It was newer, shinier than anything that usually found its way down the old farm road leading to his shop. Caleb froze beside an engine block he'd been cleaning. The color drained from his face. You know that car? Harold asked quietly. Caleb swallowed hard. I might. Before Harold could press him, the driver's door opened. Out stepped a tall man in his early 50s, wearing a dark windbreaker and sharp eyes that missed nothing. He didn't look angry. He didn't look relieved. He looked determined. He walked straight toward them. Caleb Hinton, the man called out. Caleb flinched like the words themselves were a threat. Harold stepped forward, protective instinct rising in him like fire. You got business here? The man gave a polite nod. You must be Mr. Denton. My name is Graham Lattimore. His voice was smooth, controlled. Too controlled. Caleb's breath hitched. Why are you here? Graham's eyes softened just a fraction. Because your mother has been looking for you non-stop. Caleb stiffened. I told her I needed space. Caleb, you vanished, Graham said. No calls. No messages. Nothing. She thought, he stopped, the words catching. She thought something terrible happened to you. Caleb looked away, jaw tight. I didn't mean to scare her. You did, Graham said gently. But that's not why I'm here. She sent me because she doesn't know how to reach you anymore, but she loves you. She just wants to know you're alive. Harold watched the tension between them. It wasn't anger. It was fear. Hurt. History. He stepped closer to Caleb. This man bother you? Caleb shook his head, though his voice trembled. No. He's my mother's partner. He's been around since I was a kid. He's practically family. Graham took a slow step closer but kept space. I'm not here to force you home. I'm here to make sure you're safe. That's it. The shop fell quiet except for the ticking of cooling metal. Finally, Harold folded his arms. Kid's been safe here. He's been working hard too. Graham nodded with genuine respect. Thank you for looking after him. You didn't have to. Harold shrugged. Stormy night. Lonely road. Sometimes people just need a place to land. Graham's eyes softened. It means more than you know. But Caleb was shaking, tiny, nearly invisible tremors, but Harold saw them. Caleb, Graham continued, your mother didn't send me to drag you back. She sent me because she's worried sick and wants to know how you're surviving out here. Caleb swallowed, his voice cracking. I wasn't surviving. Not at first. I figured as much, Graham said quietly. You look thinner. Harold stepped in. He's eating regular here. Caleb looked at Harold with a mixture of gratitude and shame. I didn't mean to disappear like that. Everything felt like too much. Mom wanted me to stay home, wanted me to take a job I didn't want, wanted me to pretend nothing was wrong. And I couldn't breathe there anymore. So you left without a word? Graham asked softly. I wasn't thinking straight, Caleb whispered. I just wanted to get away. Graham nodded slowly. Then maybe we start with a conversation. Just that. I'm not taking you anywhere unless you want to go. Caleb eyed him suspiciously. Mom agreed to that? She agreed to whatever keeps you safe, Graham replied. And she agreed to back off if you tell her you need time. But she can't do either unless you speak to her. Caleb's eyes shimmered with guilt. Harold rested a hand on the kid's shoulder. You don't gotta decide anything right now. You can talk to him in here. I'll give you space. Caleb exhaled shakily. Okay. But Harold stays. I trust him. Graham gave a small smile. That's fair. They moved inside the shop. Caleb sat on the stool where he'd been polishing bolts earlier. Graham stood across from him, calm but watchful. You don't look good, Graham said gently. I'm working. Eating. Sleeping, Caleb muttered. Better than I was. I'm glad, Graham said. But your mother's been scared out of her mind. She doesn't sleep. Caleb winced, as if the guilt physically hurt. I didn't want to hurt her. I know. But running doesn't make the pain smaller. It spreads it. Caleb's eyes glistened. Everything just got so heavy back home. Expectations, pressure, like I wasn't allowed to fail or figure myself out. Graham nodded slowly. Your mother tries too hard sometimes. She thinks protecting you means directing you. But she's learning too. Believe it or not, she's trying to give you space. She just needed to know you weren't dead in a ditch somewhere. Caleb let out a shaky breath. I'm sorry. You don't owe me an apology, Graham said softly. But tell her that. Hearing your voice will heal a lot. Silence settled, full, thick, emotional. Finally, Caleb whispered, I'll call her. But I don't want to go home yet. Graham gave a soft smile. You don't have to. Not until you're ready. Harold felt the tension lift just a little, like a wound had been opened but could now begin to heal. Graham looked at Harold. Thank you for giving him a soft place to land. Not many would. Harold grunted. Ain't nothing special. But Caleb turned to him, eyes warm. It was special to me. Before the moment could settle, Graham cleared his throat. Caleb, I'm staying in town for a day or two. If you want to talk more, I'm here. No pressure. Caleb nodded. Okay. Graham headed toward the door. I'm relieved you're safe. More than you know. And with that, he left, the sedan disappearing down the gravel road. Caleb sat quietly, emotions swirling like the storm that brought him here in the first place. You all right, kid? Harold asked. Caleb nodded slowly. I think for the first time in months, I might be. But the week wasn't done testing them. Because Graham wasn't the only one looking for Caleb. And the next visitor wouldn't be as gentle. 2 mornings after Graham's visit, Harold noticed a shadow moving across the gravel lot, slow, heavy, off balance. A man stepped out of an old pickup, tall but hollow-eyed, clothes rumpled, hands shaking slightly. Caleb froze the second he saw him. The man whispered, Caleb, son. Caleb stumbled back. Dad? Harold's chest tightened. Caleb had never mentioned a father. The man, Daniel Hinton, looked like someone who had lost every battle life threw at him. His voice cracked. "I heard you ran off. I came, because I needed to tell you I'm sorry." Caleb's jaw clenched. "For disappearing on us? For drinking until home felt like a war zone?" Daniel swallowed hard. "For all of it. I'm in a program now. Months sober. I'm trying to be the man I should have been." Caleb's anger trembled, but beneath it lived something softer, hurt, longing, confusion. "Why now?" "Because I couldn't lose you too," Daniel whispered. "Your mom told me you were gone, and I realized you might never know I was finally trying." Silence settled, heavy and trembling. Harold stepped back, letting them breathe. Caleb finally spoke, voice cracking. "I don't know if I can trust you." "You don't have to," Daniel said. "Just let me earn a chance. One day at a time." Caleb looked at Harold, steady, quiet, safe. Harold gave a small nod that said, "You choose." "I'm here." Caleb inhaled shakily. "I'm not ready to come home. But, we can talk. Not as father and son. Just two people trying." Daniel's eyes filled. "That's more than I deserve." As the morning light lifted across the shop, Harold realized something. Sometimes family isn't one home. Sometimes it's the places we break. And the hands that help us stand again. And for the first time, Caleb felt he finally had both.